What if the most meaningful things you ever do in life are the ones you'll never live long enough to see the result of? This is the story of a farmer, a quiet man who spent his entire life planting trees that would never give him shade. And through his quiet work, he taught his village, and maybe the world, the true meaning of purpose. In a small countryside village surrounded by golden fields and distant hills, there lived an old farmer named Eli. He wasn't famous. He wasn't rich. He wasn't even well-liked by everyone. He was simply there, present. A man of few words, always seen walking with his worn hat and an old shovel over his shoulder. His land was a patch of dry, cracked earth, a lonely hill at the edge of the valley. A place most people ignored because nothing good ever grew there. But to Eli, that barren land wasn't a curse. It was a promise. Every morning, long before the rooster's call, he'd walk to that empty hill, a sack of seeds slung across his back, a rusted shovel in his hand. And as the first hint of sunlight touched the horizon, he would dig, one small hole at a time, one seed, then another, and another, not crops for harvest, not flowers for beauty, but trees, tall, patient oaks that would take decades to grow, the villagers whispered. They thought he'd lost his mind. Why waste good water on dead land? They said. Who plants trees at his age? One morning, as Eli wiped the sweat from his brow, a young boy from the village climbed the hill to watch. Eli, the boy shouted, why are you planting trees up here? You'll be long gone before they grow. Eli looked up and smiled. The kind of smile that said he knew something the boy didn't. He said softly, then I guess I'm planting them for you. The boy frowned. For me? Yes, Eli replied. When you're older, you'll walk under their shade. You'll sit there and feel a breeze that I'll never feel. But that's the point, the boy laughed, shaking his head. He didn't understand, not yet. To him, it was foolish to work for something you'd never enjoy. But Eli kept going. Every morning, every season, every year. When it rained, he planted. When the ground was frozen, he broke it open with his hands. When drought came and the rivers shrank, he carried buckets from the stream to water each sapling. The years carved lines into his face. His back bent lower with every season. His hands, once strong, became cracked, trembling, and scarred. Yet his spirit never broke. He had no children to help him, no wealth to comfort him, only his shovel, his seeds, and his quiet belief in tomorrow. Years passed. The same boy, now a young man, returned to the village after working in the city. He was taller, stronger, and busy with the world. As he passed by that familiar hill, he saw Eli again. Older now, slower, but still digging. Eli, he said, walking closer. You're still planting? Eli looked up and nodded. Still planting? But why? The man asked. The world's changing. People are building houses, buying land, chasing money. Why waste your time with trees? Eli smiled again, the same quiet smile. Because money builds walls, he said. But trees, they build a future. The man didn't reply. He simply stared, half in disbelief, half in admiration. Something about Eli's peace unsettled him. It made him question the rush he called progress. Years melted into decades. The seasons changed. The village grew busier, but Eli's hill remained quiet. Children grew up, left home, and returned with children of their own. New roads were built. New shops opened. The old ways were fading, and yet, every morning, one figure still walked toward the hill, slower than before, but steady, until one winter morning. The hill was silent, no footsteps, no sound of shovel or rustle of seeds, just wind and emptiness. Eli had fallen ill, and within weeks, he was gone. The villagers buried him beneath the same hill he had tended for half a century. A few attended his funeral. Most just shook their heads. "What a waste of a life," one said. "He could have done so much more." The years rolled on. Rain fell, sun returned, the earth breathed. The hill stayed bare, just a scattering of tiny stumps and fragile green shoots. The boy, now a middle-aged man, sometimes visited the hill in silence. He'd run his fingers over the small saplings and whisper, "I hope you make it." 10 years, 20, 30. Slowly, the earth began to heal. Roots dug deeper. Rainwater stopped running off and began to soak in. Birds returned. Then, one spring morning, something miraculous happened. Tiny green leaves began to cover the hill, and then more and more. Until one day, the hill was alive, a forest of tall, proud oaks stretching toward the sky. Children now played under the branches. Travelers stopped to rest in the shade. Birds nested in the canopies. The sound of laughter filled the air where once there had been silence. The man, now old himself, sat under one of those trees, his hand resting against its rough bark. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you, Eli." Eli never saw this forest. He never heard the laughter of children beneath his trees. He never felt the cool shade on a summer afternoon, but his work lived on. His hands had shaped a future he would never touch. And maybe that's the greatest kind of success, to live for something bigger than yourself, to plant seeds whose fruits you'll never taste, to trust that good work always matters, even when no one sees, even when it feels pointless, even when the reward isn't yours. That's what discipline really is, not the loud rush of motivation, but the quiet faith that what you do today will matter someday. Eli's hands are gone, but his forest still breathes. And in every rustle of the leaves, the world remembers the man who worked for tomorrow. So maybe the question isn't, what can I gain from this? Maybe it's, what can I give that will outlast me? Because sometimes, the truest success is building something that keeps growing long after you're gone. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who might need a reminder that good work, even unseen, is never wasted. And remember, the seeds you plant today might one day become someone else's forest.